What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Yashay in the motherfucking building, man. Simple. We back at y'all with another one, man. This gonna be by the amazing top 10. The video is called CIA projects that most people don't know about. They been talking about the clones. They been talking about all this shit that's exclusive, bro. But no, they not. That being said, man, leave me a like. Join the army, man. That helps me grow, man. I'm just trying to get to this bread, man. You know what I'm saying? It's a little grind. But yeah, the likes get me out to more people. So yeah, if y'all niggas dislike, bro, that shit, you garbage, bro. You garbage. Why would you want to dislike me? Anyway, let me get my face off the camera. Let's get into the video.
Fabulous.
From a military base on the moon to the kidnapping of a Soviet satellite, all the way to an animal spy. Here are the top 10 classified CIA programs most people don't know about. Starting off this list, in our number 10 spot, we have Project 1794. This project was created with the goal to build a sort of saucer-type aircraft that would be designed to shoot down Soviet bombers. The program, which was created in the 1950s, was quite ambitious and had some pretty lofty goals. A team of engineers began trying to build a disc-shaped aircraft, but here's the real kicker. They wanted it to be capable of traveling at supersonic speeds at high altitudes. The documents about this project show that they wanted it to be able to travel at Mach 4, which is 4 times the speed of sound, and they wanted it to be able to reach an altitude of over 100,000 feet. At the time, the project was estimated to cost about $3 million, which is about $26 million in today's money. In the end, the project was cancelled in 1961 because the craft failed tests and proved to be aerodynamically unstable, which of course would provide a whole slew of problems at high speeds, especially supersonic ones. In our number 9 spot today, we have Operation Crossroads. This operation is the name for all of the US nuclear.
So y'all just gonna show me why. Hold up, is this on Omni mode? Omni mode? No, this is Omni. Okay. So y'all gonna show me that these niggas been trying to fake it. The UFOs, they making UFOs? They making UFOs now.
That's good.
Now they showing it to us. Wild.
Bomb tests that took place at the Bikini Atoll in 1946. Following World War II, the threat of nuclear war was at the front of everyone's minds, which led people to want to test their nuclear powers, and the US president at the time, Harry Truman, ordered that the military continue to test nuclear weapons just in case they were needed in the future. Unfortunately, Bikini was the place that was chosen to be the testing site, since all planes and ships traveled on routes that weren't close to the area. This wasn't the most secret mission there's ever been, and the testing that took place on Bikini is now well known, but newly declassified
Operation Fishbowl. If you don't know, look it up. And for y'all that do know, I know.
documents shed a lot of light onto how the residents of Bikini were affected by these tests, and it also shows the objections that both scientists and military officials had before the tests were done, and the rationale that was used in the decision making when it came to go against all of those objections. In our number 8 spot today, we have Dr. Zhivago. During the Cold War, the CIA
Dr. Zhivago. Don't that sound better? Don't let this sound more difficult. Dr. Zhivago. Dr. Zhivago
began distributing the book Dr. Zhivago throughout the Soviet Union. You might be sitting there thinking that doesn't really sound like an issue of national security, and I thought the exact same thing when I
Wait, wouldn't it be Zhivago? Who?
started learning about this secret little project. As it turns out, there was actually a reason behind it. The book was written by the Russian writer Boris Pasternak, and it was banned by the Soviets. It is said that the ban was because the book portrayed an open-minded view of the Bolshevik Revolution, and because the protagonist of the book was individualistic. The CIA saw this as an opportunity to use the book as a tool, as propaganda, so they used some of their allies for help and began delivering copies of the books into the hands of those in the Soviet Soviet Union. There isn't a lot of information about what exact effects this had on the Soviet Union, if any, but it does give insight into how the smallest things were done during this time in history, just for one common goal. We often hear about the large missions with technological advancements and tons of money thrown into them, so it makes sense why this small one might often get overlooked. In our number 7 spot today, we have Project Iceworm. This secret mission took place in the 1960s, and it was basically intended to build a series of mobile nuclear missile launch sites under the Greenland ice sheet, because this would then house medium-range missiles close enough that they would be able to strike targets within the Soviet.
Interesting. So that's what's in Alaska. Okay. What's it called? Alaska. I know it's not Alaska. Antarctica. Yeah. So that's what's in Antarctica. Appreciate y'all.
Union. This project was called Project Iceworm, but there was another project called Camp Century. Basically, Camp Century was to test out Project Iceworm and see how likely it would be and how feasible it would be. So engineers went to work and created a network of underground tunnels and buildings that included places to stay, a kitchen, a hall for hanging out, there were supply rooms, and even a communication center and a nuclear power plant. This was all kept as a super secret for a long time and was even kept from the Danish government for 7 years. In 1966, however, the project was cancelled because of the shifting ice. This created unstable conditions for the underground tunnels that are most likely crushed now, but still remain beneath the Arctic. In our number 6 spot today, we have Project Grudge. No, this—
Oh, hell no. Project Grudge, I don't even want to know.
This is not about the one I have against my ex-bestie. This project was short-lived and took place in 1949. The objective of this project was to study unidentified flying objects, or UFOs.
The ones that y'all were making. Keep going.
Basically because of research from before that stated that while some UFOs seemed to be actual aircrafts, there wasn't enough data recorded and facts known about them in order to determine where they had come from. This is actually one project that had a lot of critics surrounding it, and apparently those critics felt like the project was only trying to debunk UFO reports, and I have to ask, even if that was true, why is that a bad thing? I'd like someone to give me a perfectly reasonable explanation for every UFO.
Period, poo. Nah,
I beg your pardon?
I guess the issue really arose because people were feeling like no actual research was being put into the UFOs, and it was more about the objects being evaluated based on the idea that they don't exist, that they all had to be man-made here on Earth, and even beforehand the idea of extraterrestrials were ruled out. In our number 5 spot today, we have Operation Gladio. This was a plan that was developed during the Cold War by the North Atlantic.
These niggas got some good ass naming. That sounds fire as fuck. Project Gladio.
Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO. Basically, the plan was designed to keep Europe as safe as possible if there were to be a Soviet invasion. Basically, the plan was to form these kinds of secret armies in many NATO countries like Italy, Belgium, and France. These armies would be preparing for a potential takeover.
No. France.
And they would then lead the resistance if this were to occur. Some of the preparations for this plan, should it have to go forward, were things like spying, as well as hoarding ammunition, which is a frightening thought. This project
was such a cool ass.
Was so secret that not only was the Soviet Union obviously kept out of the loop, but some of the highest ranking officials in the countries involved didn't even know about these little secret armies. In our number 4 spot today, we have Operation Washtub. This operation came to light in 2014 with—
Come on, man, show me Operation Fishbowl. Come on. Hold up, let me get my thumb. Back. No, I can't have this.
Project was so secret that not only was the Soviet Union obviously kept out of the loop, but some of the highest ranking officials in the countries involved didn't even know about these little secret armies. In our number 4 spot today, we have Operation Washtub. This operation came to light in 2014 when documents became declassified and more people could learn about this Cold War era operation. Basically, this was a covert mission that had its sights set on Alaska. The plan detailed the training of different people who lived in Alaska. We're talking just ordinary residents. They wanted to train these people to both code and decode and a few other different spying tactics, which would have been so Cool. I mean, I would have wanted to be picked so badly. Not that I would have known it was even happening, but you get what I mean. Basically, the plan was put in place in case the Soviet Union was to invade Alaska. Then, these unsuspecting ordinary citizens would use their newly learned espionage techniques to get all the intel they could and secretly relay the information to high-ranking US officials. As we now know, of course this invasion never occurred, so the contingency plan wasn't needed, but 89 lucky temporary agents were trained just for this purpose. In our number 3 spot today, we have Acoustic Kitty. Apparently in 1976, the CIA was spending millions of dollars trying to make cats into spies. I don't know why they chose the one animal that does not care what you want it to do, but alas, they did, and Project Acoustic Kitty was born. The project basically involved implanting electronic spy equipment into real living cats, who would then be trained to basically eavesdrop on unsuspecting people. This is another one of those Cold War era plans that was intended to be used on those in the Soviet Union. The project had a whole slew of issues, of course, however, because cats can get hungry and distracted, and unfortunately the first time this plan was being tested, there was a catastrophic outcome. The project was of course cancelled, and the researchers said that they believed they could train cats to move short distances, but that, quote, the environmental and security factors in using this technique in a real foreign situation forces us to conclude that for our intelligence purposes, it would not be practical. In our number 2 spot today, we have the Lunik kidnapping. Don't worry, Lunik is not a person, and instead is a Soviet lunar satellite that was kidnapped just for one night. This project honestly sounds like it was taken straight from a movie, and it has to do with the Great Space Race.
Operation Take Their Satellite. Ugly.
In the early 1960s, the Soviet Union wanted to make it as clear as possible that they were winning the race to space, so they launched a multinational exhibition of their Lunik satellites, which became the first spacecraft to impact the moon's surface, and when the Luna 3 returned, it brought with it the first ever pictures of the moon's far side. It was a big deal, and it's safe to say that the US wanted to know everything they could about it. Of course, the satellite was heavily guarded, but it was traveling from city to city for this exhibition, so undercover CIA agents went to work. Basically, they convinced the man who drove the transport truck to get some rest at a nearby hotel, and basically they would just look after it for him for a while he rested. I'm sure it was a bit more complicated than this, but you get the gist. From here, the agents then took apart and photographed every single component of the thing before putting it all back together, placing it back in the truck for its next tour date. There's no indication that before the operation became declassified that anyone outside of those involved knew what had happened, and I'm not gonna lie, that's a pretty hilarious plan, and the fact that it worked is both shocking and impressive. In our number 1 spot today, we have Project Horizon. Even before people were going to space, we had big goals in mind for the world of space travel. In 1959, there were plans for a proposed manned military base that would be located, of course, on the moon. This plan, which was dubbed Project Horizon, would, quote, develop and protect potential United States interest on the moon, as said in now declassified documents. It was
Hey, the plan probably went through, man. You never know nowadays. They probably hiding a lot of shit up there on the moon, and then they trying to hide shit on Mars. Why? Like, that's my thing. What's up? Why out of nowhere everybody just want to go to Mars? Y'all skip Venus, Mercury. Y'all went straight to Mars. Like, no other planet, just straight Mars. Like, come on, bro. Like, what y'all trying to do with Mars, bro? Y'all done on the moon?
was estimated at the time to cost about $6 billion, and the projected operational date was December of 1966, which is when they thought that they could have 12 soldiers on the base by. The project not only wanted to study more about the surface of the moon, but what better of a place to spy on the Earth than the moon? This project of course never came to fruition, and the reason it stopped progressing was because the president at the time, Dwight Eisenhower, rejected it at the same time that the responsibility for America's space program was being transferred over to NASA. Alright guys, that has been our list for today. Thank you so much for checking it out.
With that being said, man, I know this wasn't the most eventful one. I know this wasn't the most funniest one, but it's a video. With that being said, I hope y'all enjoyed your day. If you ain't looking nowhere else, you're welcome here. The link to the video is in the description down below. Leave a like, join the motherfucking army, rock the gang, family group. What else? I said everything. With that being said, man, I'm out. Love y'all. Peace.